This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
أهلا بكم مجددا. رفضت السلطات الإيرانية سماح للمعارضة بتنظيم.
The Iranian authorities refused to allow the opposition to organize protests to commemorate those who died during the demonstrations that demanded a re-election. Ali Larijani, head of the parliament, rejected the reformist demand to consider Ahmadinejad's government illegitimate due to the most recent resignation. Reformists also demanded the removal of Ahmadinejad. Al-Arabiya has learned that the Iranian president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has appointed Majid Alawiya to be the head of the intelligence agency. There were divisions within Iranian intelligence in regards to what is known as the Velvet Revolution. These divisions led to the toppling of senior Iranian officials in the ministry, one of them being the minister, Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ajaei, who was removed by the Iranian president. Al-Arabiya's sources said that more than 20 senior officials in the ministry were removed due to their refusal to treat the protesters as members of a Velvet Revolution, which is aimed at changing the Republic's regime. With more details and comments, I have with me today in the studio Naja Muhammad Ali. Naja, in regards to the latest measures that the Supreme Leader Khamenei has taken, one of them being his orders to close the detention centers, is it accurate to say that these steps were seeking reconciliation with the reformists?
Supposedly, this is a step for reconciliation, but he only ordered the closure of one camp, the Kahliza camp in southern Tehran, and this camp was absolutely not a prison. It was a camp for Iraqi detainees. After the prisoner issues were solved, they used this camp to detain drug addicts, and recently they transferred many of the demonstrators, among them senior officials in this camp. It's true that the step Khamenei has taken is in the direction of reconciliation. However, today Tehran's Attorney General, Saeed Murtadawi, who is described by reformers as the butcher of journalists because he closed many newspapers and arrested and imprisoned many journalists, said that currently the prison does not hold detainees that were arrested as a result of the Iranian elections. He considers them insiders who have links to outsiders, and of course, this step completely contradicts the reconciliatory one announced by Khamenei.
How can we reconcile the two steps? While the Iranian authorities and the Supreme Leader order the closure of the camps, the other says that the camp doesn't hold any demonstrators. Are there divisions among the Iranian authorities?
In many cases, conservative hardliners misinterpret what the Supreme Leader says. For example, in this case, they take his words to be against the reformists. Until now, the Supreme Leader has said that those who participated in the demonstrations that challenged the election results are part of the revolution and are the sons of the revolution, and it is necessary that they are not treated as enemies of the regime. Only a day or two later, his representative in the Revolutionary Guard, Ali Saidi, threatened to completely isolate and remove Hashim Rafsanjani. Saadi warned Rafsanjani with the same fate dealt to al-Muntazari, who was removed by the late Ayatollah Khamenei during the year 1989 when he was the Supreme Leader's deputy.
And hundreds of Iraqis have held a protest rally against a visit by the U.S. Defense Secretary, who was there to examine the future role of American forces in that country. Robert Gates has so far met with Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. He has described Iraq's security situation as amazingly different to that of his first visit to the country back in 2006. Gates says the withdrawal of the U.S. combat troops from urban bases is paying off. The withdrawal, a milestone in the plan to pull all U.S. troops out of Iraq by the end of 2011. Gates arrived in Iraq on Tuesday at the final leg of a Middle East tour that has already taken him to Israel and Jordan. The Iraqi army has taken control of Camp Ashraf, which houses members of the anti-Iran terrorist group Mujahideen Khalq Organization, or the MKO. Iraq's military says its soldiers entered the camp by force after negotiations for a peaceful entry failed. It says it's now in full control of the camp, which the Iraqi government says is home to around 3,000 people. The army says nobody has been injured in the operation. The MKO is held responsible for assassinating many Iranian citizens and officials after the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The terrorist group also collaborated with the regime of former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein in his 8-year bloody war against Iran in the 80s. Pakistan is gravely concerned about India's first nuclear-powered submarine. Islamabad says the vessel is detrimental to regional peace. In a statement, the Pakistani Foreign Ministry said the government will take appropriate steps to maintain what it calls a strategic balance. Islamabad has also stressed that it is not after an arms race with its neighbor. And on Sunday, India launched the first of 5 planned submarines powered by a nuclear reactor that will be armed with ballistic missiles. India, along with Britain, China, France, Russia, and the U.S., possess nuclear-powered submarines. Both New Delhi and Islamabad have tested nuclear weapons in the past. The nuclear-armed rivals have fought 3 wars since 1948. Relations between the two worsened last November when gunmen killed scores of people in the Indian city of Mumbai. New Delhi has blamed a banned Pakistani group for the attack.
A news source in Yemen said that 4 soldiers were killed and another one was wounded in an ambush set up by what was referred to as saboteurs in the Arabiya province in southern Yemen.
Meanwhile, some unidentified people detonated an explosive device near the headquarters of the ruling party in Zinjubar city. The explosion, which occurred at dawn, caused damages to the headquarters and adjacent buildings.
As the crisis intensifies, the days in Yemen are the same. People continue to be killed and wounded. The violence has reached all southern provinces besides Abyan. This is happening as the passage for dialogue disappears. The Southerners reiterate that they demand legal rights in the framework of the full citizenship agreement, which was signed by the National Unity Government in 1990. Yemeni authorities are dealing with what the Southerners consider political and social matters as security problems. The government accuses the mobilization forces in the south of using mortar shells and machine guns against the demonstrators and describes them as saboteurs and lawless elements. The Southerners deny these accusations. The crisis, which broke out in April of 2009, was confronted with wide-scale arrests. This raises concerns among the Southerners that the government will use the judicial system as a tool to oppress the demonstrators, which became evident with the harsh sentences against the protesters. As the crisis in Yemen faces a dead end, Yemen's future remains unknown.
Joining us from Sana'a is Al Jazeera Bureau Chief Murad Hashim. Murad, has it become clear who carried out this attack against the soldiers? Are they supporters of Tariq al-Fadli, who called for holding demonstrations to protest the deaths of the protesters who were killed last week?
Until now, no one has taken responsibility for this attack. Security sources held what they call saboteurs responsible. The Yemeni authorities have consistently accused activists from the Southern Mobilization Forces of using weapons to achieve their goals, despite the fact that some members of the mobilization forces avoid doing so. According to the source, 10 armed unidentified people participated in the attack, which took place at 2 a.m. As a result, 4 patrol members were killed and 1 other was injured. According to the statement by the source, it appears that this was an attack rather than an ambush. Another attack took place at the same time in Zinjbar city within the ruling party's headquarters. An explosive device was set up and was detonated in the headquarters and the adjacent buildings. 2 buses were burned while the main water pipe in the neighborhood and the only museum in the city were damaged.
الحي ومتحف أيضا هو الوحيد في المدينة.
نعم يعني كما ذكرت.
As you mentioned, 4 soldiers died in Abyan and in Zinjubar, and there was an attack on the ruling party's headquarters.
نفذ ضد مقر الحزب الحاكم. ألا يبشر ذلك بأن اليمن مقبل.
Doesn't that indicate that the Yemeni government is about to enter a confrontation which it is not militarily prepared for?
هي في الواقع الأحداث تتوالى بشكل على منحى تصاعد.
In reality, events continue to escalate as we've been following them for the last several weeks. The steps that the authorities have been taking are excluded to security measures. This has caused much criticism from the political powers here yesterday. For example, there was a heated session in the Yemeni parliament where the ministers of defense and internal affairs were questioned.
على سبيل المثال كانت هناك جلسة ساخنة للبرلمان اليمني استجوب فيها وزيري الدفاع والداخلية وحضرها.
The vice prime minister and security officials attended the session too, where they gave many explanations and excuses for the situation. Calls were made for restoring order and to avoid some of the wrong policies made by the government. Representatives had strong opinions about the government's management.
السياسات الحكومية ولكن النواب أيضا كانت لديهم ملاحظات شديدة على أداء الحكومة.
If the event escalates and the security aggravation continues without any real solution, the officials will submit their resignations. The political parties here believe that the solution to the problem can be achieved through political action rather than security measures. Taking additional security measures will lead to more aggravation, counter-confrontation, and counter-violence.
Thank you very much, Murad Hashim from Sana'a.
تحذيرات لإيران بفرض عقوبات أشد عليها وطمأنة.
U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates reassured Israel and threatened Iran with tougher sanctions. This was the conclusion of Gates' visit to the region. He stressed that Iran will be subjected to tougher sanctions if it does not respond to Washington's offer for dialogue pertaining to its controversial nuclear program. The Obama administration confirmed that the U.S. will focus on dialogue in dealing with Tehran's nuclear program. We leave you with Saghir Salam.
The U.S. Secretary of Defense has decided to threaten Tehran with tougher sanctions if it rejects the U.S. offer for dialogue pertaining to its nuclear program. Gates' decision to address the Iranian leadership from Israel sends a strong message of reassurance from Washington to its top ally in the region. The U.S. Secretary of Defense also explained to Israeli officials Obama's extended hand policy towards Iran.
The President has been quite clear that this is not an open-ended offer. We are aware that Iran may play the time game. I think that the President expects an answer before the UN General Assembly's next meeting.
Gates' message of reassurance was well received by Israeli officials. Gates then traveled to Amman, where he met with the aides of the Jordanian King Abdullah II. Many issues were discussed, but Iran's nuclear program seems to be the most important issue for the U.S. Secretary of Defense.
What is clear is that
if the dialogue does not work, then the U.S. will be willing to push for tougher sanctions. We will try to rally international support for a tougher position towards Iran.
Gates focused on Iran during his visit to the Middle East. The question is, will his threats against Tehran work, or will Iran accept Washington's extended hand?
U.S. Middle East envoy George Mitchell may be in the region to push the peace process forward, but hundreds of right-wing supporters are demanding that the American diplomat go home. IBA's Leah Stern brings us the story.
Right-wing protesters marched from Jerusalem's Paris Square towards the U.S. consulate last night, demonstrating against the American demand that Israel halt all construction in the West Bank and East Jerusalem.
We see brutal American pressure exerted on the government of Israel to, in fact, act in contrast to the best interest of the State of Israel.
But it's not just demonstrations. Several dozen so-called hilltop youth took matters into their own hands, completing construction of 11 outposts. They were meant to be in place in time for this morning's meeting between Mitchell and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Most of the youth were evacuated by the IDF.
In America, a Jew can live wherever he wants. He can work wherever he wants. Say he's the parent or that, but nobody will tell him he can't work somewhere or can't live somewhere because he's Jewish. Only in the Eretz Israel, in the Jewish homeland, do they tell you that, and the Jewish army, do they tell you that you cannot live or you cannot plant.
Mitchell met yesterday with PA Prime Minister Salam Fayyad to reassure him about American efforts to come to an agreement with Jerusalem regarding settlement growth.
If the U.S. could not have Israel comply with an obligation like stopping settlement activities, including natural growth, who will believe that the U.S. will be able to have Israel comply to withdraw to the 67 borders?
New surveys issued today say that 68% of Israelis who had supported the 2005 disengagement from Gaza now regret doing so, saying it was a mistake. This is Leah Stern for IBA News.
Happiness is over the rubble because the determination and hope are stronger than wounds and pain. The Palestinian wedding that is happening in the shadow of the unjust Israeli siege paints a picture different from the chapters of steadfastness and confrontation. Our correspondent in Gaza observed a scene of joy amidst the rubble that war machinery and aggression have left.
As one of the special customs for weddings, the bride and groom decided to have the happiest day of their lives in tents, which they built amidst the rubble from their destroyed home. All here tried to rise beyond their pain and embrace the happiness as the sound of joy started to blare higher than the drums of war.
Since the war ended, one can no longer find homes to rent. All of the homes are occupied. If someone has a brother whose home was demolished, he would let him live with him. However, we have no choice but to live in a tent.
I would like to send a message to the occupation. We will remain steadfast and we will not leave, whether we must live in tents or in the wild.
Sorrow does not have a place here today, they said, and the happiness of the newlywed couple is beyond description. Politics and its battlegrounds tried to intervene in Palestinian affairs. Now, the war is over, and the reconstruction has been delayed. The Palestinians have waited long until the happiness has finally emerged from the womb of hardship.
Our happiness is incomplete. As you can see the situation and how the people are living. We're living in a tent. We don't have a home. God willing, the situation will return to normal.
This is a typical Palestinian wedding that included all the Palestinian traditions and cultural legacies. This is a new picture expressing a joy that cannot be suppressed by Israeli tanks or the rubble of these homes. After sadness came the happiness, and in their happiness, there is still a taste of sadness. Here, north of Gaza, the residents call this place joy over rubble. It is an effort to put together the two contradictory factors. At the end of the day, the Palestinians are wishing for joy. Mahmoud Aliyan, Syria Arabic TV, Gaza Strip.
In an attempt to reduce the effects of the unjust siege, a caravan took off with new supplies provided by Syrians to Palestinians in Gaza, including 7 large freight trucks carrying about 156 tons of food and cleaning products. Mr. Ahmed Abdul Karim, president of the Arabic Syrian People's Council to support the uprising and countering the Zionist project, reiterated that this caravan of supplies was donated by provinces of Syria to offer them to Palestinian brothers as the blissful Ramadan approaches, in order to reduce the suffering and pain created by Israel's continuous hostile behaviors.
In an interview with New TV, attorney Muntasir al-Zayed explained the legal implications of the transfer of the so-called Hezbollah cell to the Egyptian State Security Emergency Court. Our colleague Muna Ashmawi investigates in the following report.
جاء قرار النائب العام المصري بإحالة المتهمين في قضية خلية حزب الله إلى جنايات أمن الدولة مدون.
The decision by the Egyptian Prosecutor General to transfer the defendants of the Hezbollah cell case to the State Security Court has cast its shadow among public opinion. The 26 indicted defendants include 2 Lebanese, 5 Palestinians, 1 Sudanese, and 18 Egyptians. While 22 were arrested, 4 remain at large, including Muhammad Qubulan, leader of the Hezbollah's intelligence operations in Egypt. We have interviewed the suspects of defense attorney Muntasir al-Zayed.
لذا كان من الطبيعي أن نجري لقاء مع محامي الدفاع في القضية منتصر الزيات.
إحالة المتهمين في القضية المسماة خلية حزب الله.
The transfer of the defendants in the so-called Hezbollah cell case to the emergency court is the most stringent legal decision taken by any Egyptian state court. The use of exceptional courts, like emergency and military courts, is an extreme measure, which is usually declared during emergency and martial laws. This allows the transfer of certain cases to the jurisdiction of emergency courts, which are usually formed by an executive order from the President of the Republic. This court will look into allegations of war crimes and acts of terrorism under emergency laws. This court is an emergency tribunal known for its speedy proceedings and for disallowing any appeals. Its decisions are usually final and are not subject to appeal. Even if the court finds the defendants not guilty, the President of the Republic or the military governor acting in his behalf has the right to override the court's decision and order a new trial. This is an exceptional court, which is not justified by the facts and materials presented in the case. This is posing a big question.
The Egyptian state prosecutor has accused defendant Muhammad Qubulan and Muhammad Yusuf Mansour, also known as Sami Shahab, of conspiring and spying for Hezbollah inside and outside of Egypt. Qubulan and Shahab were accused of collecting money in order to help fund the group's operations, which include gathering intelligence, conducting surveillance, and acquiring bombs. The group was also accused of conspiring to carry out terrorist attacks on vessels and ships passing through the Suez Canal, in addition to targeting tourists and tourist installations.
One of the charges cited by the district attorney was spying during a time of war. The punishment for the crime of spying during times of peace ranges between a life sentence with temporary hard labor and a life sentence with permanent hard labor. The punishment for the crime of spying during a time of war is a death sentence. Having said that, there is no state of war existing between Hezbollah and Egypt or between Lebanon and Egypt. The second charge, which is more dangerous than the spying charge, is the possession of weapons and bombs, and it constitutes a death penalty.
The trial of the defendants in the so-called Hezbollah cell will start in a few days. It is expected that their punishment will be at a minimum of 10 years to a maximum of life in prison. This will be the case provided that no last-minute mediation efforts are launched, which may turn the equation upside down. Mona Ashmawi, New TV, Cairo.
بعد مدريد وقشطالة أصبحت الأندلس قبلة مفضلة.
After Madrid and Qashtala, Andalusia has become the favorite destination for thousands of Moroccan immigrants who work in agriculture and tourism. A new report about Moroccans living in Andalusia states that their living conditions are deteriorating due to the economic crisis in Spain. Our reporter Ayman al-Zubair reports from Ashbilia.
تقرير مراسلنا أيمن الزبير.
The report, which was prepared by the Al Andalusia Research Center, has drawn many conclusions pertaining to the living conditions of Moroccans in Al Andalusia. Al Andalusia has become the favorite destination to over 100,000 Moroccans over the past 10 years. Most of them work in tourism and agriculture.
We want to use this analysis to make decisions that will protect the interests of Al Andalusia and help assimilate the immigrants.
What the population of Al Andalusia is going through reflects the new changes affecting the Moroccan community in Spain. According to this report, these changes are due to the economic crisis and lack of skills among Moroccan immigrants in Spain. Therefore, the study concludes that the Moroccan community must face many challenges, such as learning Spanish and trying to acquire skills to maximize their job opportunities.
We have noticed that the Moroccan immigrants are now important to Spain. Most of the newcomers are males between the ages of 20 and 40 years old who are trying to bring their families to Spain but lack the necessary job skills and are therefore forced to take seasonal work.
These obstacles have imposed new realities on the newcomers, most importantly, forcing them to reconsider their family plans.
Many families can no longer live in Andalusia, which forces fathers to send their families back to Morocco as a way to overcome financial crisis.
Poor immigrants are affected the most by the financial crisis. The report warned that living conditions of Moroccan students are also deteriorating. They are forced to drop out of school and look for jobs so that they can stay in Spain. Ayman al-Zubair, Al Jazeera, Ashbilia.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs, programs which connect you to the world.